So if you're working as a health, wellness, or fitness professional, you're going to see clients that are using estrogen therapy and hormone replacement type therapies. And they'll really be excited about it because they often will improve some significant symptoms. But it's important for you to understand the downsides of this therapy. After all, a shot of tequila can make somebody feel a lot better about a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that that shot of tequila isn't going to create a whole bunch of problems too. You don't want to miss this.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So you can explain this to your clients like this. If you have too many bills, that stress can really be a bad symptom. It's a symptom that you do not enjoy. So you can get a car title loan, get a big bucket of money, pay off all your bills, and you remove that symptom. But you also just spent a bunch of your paycheck on that loan, and now you have this big payment that you have to pay. And if you can't keep up with those payments, you don't get your car anymore, and now how are you going to get to work and make money at all? So you can see that you remove some symptoms by creating some bigger problems down the road. So to understand the downsides of estrogen therapy, we first need to understand why it can help people remove symptoms so significantly. So estrogen is a stress hormone. So when the body comes across an urgent situation, maybe it needs a little bit of help to deal with this urgent situation, it can raise stress hormones like estrogen to help the body get through that tough spot. In the same regard, if somebody's resources are very low and the body doesn't have all the resources that it needs to function and operate correctly, it can raise these stress hormones like estrogen and help the body function like it should. So that's great. That's naturally the way the body works. We like when things work naturally like that. The problem is that this urgent situation that the body's dealing with could become a very urgent situation. It could be a prolonged urgent situation. It could be some type of infection or some type of burden that the body's dealing with, or the resources that the body has can dwindle and dwindle, and now it really doesn't have much resources to try to function correctly. So now it's trying to raise these stress hormones most of the time or even all the time just to get by. And eventually the person just can't keep up with that, and all these symptoms will show up. So they'll show up and like, hey, get me some estrogen therapy. And they'll pump this estrogen in there, and when you put in 10 to 20 times the amount that was in there before, why wouldn't some symptoms improve? After all, this is what the body was using to help it function a little bit better, to give itself a little bit of a boost. So when you give a 10 to 20 times boost in there, yeah, some symptoms can improve significantly. And the person's like, oh man, my face was on fire for 46 seconds at a time, and now it's not. I really like it not to be on fire. So they're going to be a big fan of this therapy. Here's the problem. We know now that higher estrogen levels seem to have the ability to thicken up bile so that it won't flow correctly. Now here's why that can be a big issue. When we eat food, our stomachs make hydrochloric acid, or HCl, and that helps us start to break that food down through that acidification process. But when that acidified food leaves the stomach, now this bile that was made by the liver, bile is this soapy substance that the liver makes and then it's stored in the gallbladder. So when the acidic product leaves the stomach, the gallbladder squirts this alkaline bile down onto the acidic product, and it helps us neutralize those acids, and the alkaline meeting the acid creates this sizzle. And this sizzle is what helps us really bust the food apart and pull all the minerals and nutrients and amino acids and all that good stuff out of the food that we're eating. That's why we eat food, so that we can get the nutrients in that food. But if a person doesn't have both of these sides of digestion working correctly, we don't get that sizzle. And we can't really break that food apart and get all the nutrients out of that food, which is going to lead to nutrient deficiencies that can create a wide variety of issues. Now there are other issues that can thicken up bile so it won't flow correctly, but high estrogen levels seems to be a very common reason when someone has a significant bile flow issue. So another problem is that the bile is what our body uses to emulsify our dietary fats or break them down so that they can be utilized by the body. And when you can't emulsify these fats, they try to break down by process of rotting or fermenting, which means those fats can become rancid and toxic, and now instead of giving the body resources it needs, it's giving the body a burden. And the body says, well, what am I going to do with this? Well, I can shove it into fat cells, I can store it there, and then all of a sudden your client's pants don't fit anymore. Or the body says, hey, I can shove some of this out of the pores in the skin, and now the pores get clogged up and they have acne or some other type of skin issue. But here's why that can be a problem for acne. The other thing that bile does is that the liver filters toxins and filth out of the body, and it puts it into the bile. So when the bile goes through the intestinal tract, those filth and toxins can go out the back door. That's the main exit strategy for filth and toxins in the body. Now the body has other ones like the skin, like the pores. So when that bile is not flowing correctly and filth and toxins can't get removed, the liver becomes overwhelmed and these filth and toxins start to accumulate. So the body says, hey, I'll push it out through the skin and then through the pores. And then that creates acne and other skin issues. So a person could be taking birth control pills to help their acne and then end up thickening up bile so they create acne for a totally different reason, just because the body can't remove toxins. When the liver gets overwhelmed, it also can't do all of its other jobs, like making cholesterol that's needed to make hormones or to allow the thyroid to function correctly. The liver is kind of in charge of converting that T4 to the active T3, and that way the thyroid can work. If you want to learn more about that problem where liver problems can create thyroid issues, we'll put a link down in the description below the video for you. But the liver has a lot of jobs, and when it's overwhelmed because it's filtering out the same toxins over and over again because the bile is not flowing and the toxins aren't going out the back door, then the liver can't do all these other jobs and we create all of these other problems. Now, we don't base all of our decisions on studies and such because a lot of those seem to be kind of bought and paid for type of situation. But for those who are a little bit study crazy, we'll put links to some studies below that are indicating that there's a correlation between birth control and hormone replacement therapies and gallstones and gallbladder issues. And we know that gallstones come from the bile not flowing well enough and the bile just kind of sitting in the gallbladder, and the gallbladder continues to concentrate that bile. That's the gallbladder's job. It concentrates the bile so it can be more effective. But when the bile's not flowing correctly, it just continues to concentrate it until it concentrates it into stones. So if you don't understand how that works, we'll put a link to the video below in the description about understanding how gallstones happen. You can see that there's a lot of proof out there that this is a problem. It's not just something that we're seeing with our clients, that there's a lot of information out there saying that, when estrogen is too high, that it can restrict bile flow. And this isn't just from using estrogen therapy. Some people are like, oh, I'm using bioidentical hormones, so it's natural. It's just like what's in my body. But understand that it doesn't matter if estrogen is high because it's a synthetic hormone or it's a bioidentical hormone, or even if you're not on hormone therapy at all. Your body's just making a lot of estrogen or other stress hormones to deal with the stress of probably not having enough resources. And the interesting thing is that this often goes back to an inability to digest your food correctly, an inability to pull resources out of your food. And now resources are low and the body's freaking out because it needs to have resources. So it raises these stress hormones instead, and high estrogen from stress hormones can affect bile flow just like estrogen therapy can. It's also important to understand that this problem will not happen with every single person. A lot of people have their bile flowing very well. They're taking steps that allow that to keep moving, and it can be dictated by food choices, lifestyle choices, stress in the body, stress in their life. There's a lot of factors that can affect whether bile is going to move or not. So some people might not have trouble for years and some people might not ever have trouble. But a lot of those studies we talked about, they indicate like, oh, there seems to be like about a 36% increase in trouble for people doing these therapies. And 36% isn't very much, but 36% is a lot if your client is in that 36%. So we like to worry more about how things are affecting the person instead of the masses. A lot of these studies, we don't know who's in these studies. Are these all, young people who have their body operating, very high level, or are these people that are dealing with some health issues? So we like to look at how things affect a person and their unique bio-individuality. Just keep in mind that as a health professional, this doesn't mean you should tell all your clients, oh, don't keep doing your estrogen therapy. You got to stop that. That's important for their doctor to help them do that or reduce that in a way that's going to be appropriate. What's important for you to understand is how this could be affecting their chemistry. So to gain more insights on how to figure out are there aspects of digestion that may not be working well with your clients, and are there signs of bile not flowing well, I go over how to do all of this in my book Health Pro Results, and it's available on Amazon, but I'm going to put a link below in the description to get it totally for free. And you can get the whole book for free, and it'll kind of walk you through how to do that and help you start using these tools with your clients. But for now, watch our video on 5 steps that can help your clients improve bile flow. That way you can gain more insights on steps that can help improve this issue instead of make it worse. I can't wait to hear about your results.